At the end of the 17th century, during the reign of King Louis XIV, a mysterious prisoner was held in the Bastille prison in France. No one knew the true identity of this person, but stories about him captured the public's curiosity for centuries. What was particularly intriguing was that the prisoner always wore a mask, leading to numerous speculations about his identity and the reasons for his imprisonment. The story of the man in the Iron Mask became famous thanks to the works of philosopher Voltaire and novelist Alexandre Dumas. Voltaire, in his records, described this figure as an important prisoner who was treated well, but had his identity concealed by a mask. The mystery surrounding this man became a source of inspiration for countless literary works, films, and art over the centuries. Movies, cartoons, and novels based on this story helped make the Man in the Iron Mask one of France's most famous historical mysteries. Although the truth may not be as thrilling as the stories that have been spun, it is undeniable that this story continues to captivate the imagination of the public worldwide. For centuries, the true identity of the Man in the Iron Mask remained a great mystery, attracting the attention of many historians. However, in 2016, historian Paul Sonnino proposed the most plausible hypothesis: the imprisoned man could have been Eustache d'Alger, a mysterious servant. According to historical records, d'Alger was arrested in 1669 by the orders of the French government. What was unusual about the arrest was that it came with extremely strict instructions. d'Alger was forbidden from speaking unless it was for essential needs, and any violation of this could lead to immediate execution. These harsh measures suggested that he was hiding an important secret that the authorities wanted to conceal. Sonnino believed that d'Alger could have been a servant of Cardinal Mazarin, one of the most powerful figures in France at the time. Mazarin was not only a close advisor to the royal family, but also controlled the country's finances. He amassed a great fortune, and Sonnino hypothesized that d'Alger had discovered that Mazarin had embezzled part of the assets of the former king and queen. Knowing this earth-shattering secret, d'Alger was imprisoned for decades to ensure that he could not reveal the truth. Additionally, records show that d'Alger was kept in complete isolation with no contact with other prisoners. This further supports the hypothesis that he was not an ordinary criminal, but someone involved in a large political or financial conspiracy. Although Sonnino's theory cannot be definitively proven, it remains one of the most plausible explanations for the true identity of the Man in the Iron Mask. Rather than being a royal or a disgraced noble, as many previous theories suggested, he might simply have been a servant who knew too many secrets and paid for it with his entire life. Before Paul Sonnino proposed his theory about Eustache d'Alger, there were many other theories about the identity of the Man in the Iron Mask, with many suggesting he could be a member of the French royal family. One popular theory was that this man might have been Louis de Bourbon, the exiled son of King Louis XIV. Others believed he could be François de Bourbon, a cousin of King Louis XIV, who was defeated in battle while the Man in the Mask was still alive. A more bizarre theory suggested that the Man in the Iron Mask was Ercole Mathiol, an Italian count, imprisoned for betraying the king. However, this theory was dismissed because Mathiol died in 1694, while the prisoner was still imprisoned until 1703. Additionally, some theories argue that the mask was not intended for just one person, but could have been used to punish those involved with the king's wife. However, the most widely discussed theory is that of Nicolas Fouquet, a prominent French financier who was imprisoned by King Louis XIV for building a grand chateau and daring to challenge the king's power. Although he was ultimately only imprisoned in the Pignerol fortress rather than being executed, stories about him led many to believe he could have been the Man in the Iron Mask. Despite the many theories, the true identity of the Man in the Mask remains an unresolved question. One of the most mysterious aspects of the Man in the Iron Mask is the mask he was forced to wear. Accounts from the 17th and 18th centuries All mention that the prisoner always appeared with his face covered, which only fueled public curiosity about his true identity. Stories about the mask quickly spread, with many believing it was made of iron, making it impossible for the prisoner to remove. However, historians, including Paul Sonnino, have suggested that the mask may not have been made of iron, but velvet. This is because an iron mask would have been uncomfortable and hard to wear for long periods, whereas velvet masks were more common during that era. Wealthy individuals often wore velvet masks to protect their skin from the sun, or to conceal their identities when engaging in secretive activities. Moreover, there is no clear evidence that the prisoner had to wear the mask continuously throughout his imprisonment. It is possible that he was only forced to wear it when being transferred from one prison to another to avoid being recognized. Whether the mask was made of iron or velvet, it remains a symbol of captivity and concealment, sparking countless theories and legends that have lasted for centuries. The story of the man in the iron mask is not only a historical legend, but has also had a profound influence on popular culture and perceptions of King Louis XIV. Throughout the French era, rumors about this man helped enhance the image of Louis XIV as a ruthless dictator. Reports about the concealment of the prisoner's identity and the strange details surrounding his life led those opposed to the king to use the story as a critique of his authoritarian rule. While some believed the mask symbolized power and restraint, others thought the story reflected the fear and absolute control that the king imposed on the nation. The tale of the man in the iron mask also became a major source of inspiration for literature and film. Two of the most influential figures in turning the man in the iron mask into a legend were Voltaire and Alexandre Dumas. Voltaire, the famous French philosopher and writer, collected many stories about the mysterious prisoner when he was imprisoned in the Bastille in 1717. He heard from older prisoners that this man was always masked and treated specially, suggesting he might have been an important figure. Voltaire added many thrilling details to the story, especially the detail of the iron mask, making it an iconic image. He even described the mask as having a spring system that allowed the prisoner to eat without removing it, further adding to the mystery of the tale. Alexandre Dumas, the author famous for The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, elevated this legend to new heights. In his novel Le Vicomte de Bragelonne, he created the hypothesis that the man in the iron mask was the twin brother of King Louis XIV. According to Dumas' story, the king ordered his brother's imprisonment to protect his own power and legitimacy. This theory became the foundation for many films, including the 1998 The Man in the Iron Mask starring Leonardo DiCaprio, which adapted this legendary tale into a famous cinematic work. Thanks to Voltaire and Dumas, the story of the man in the iron mask not only became a historical event, but a legend that lives on in French popular culture. To this day, the story of the man in the iron mask remains an unsolved mystery. Although theories suggest candidates such as Eustache Dozier or Nicolas Fouquet, his true identity has never been confirmed. With a blend of historical events and legend, the man in the iron mask continues to be a subject of fascination and intrigue.